Okay, PD. You sure you like the name PD? Alright, that's cool. Okay, PD. I've been thinking we could get you a body. It might lead to a lot of trouble in the future. But this is what we do. We'll go back to that cloning machine. We'll make a clone a body. It'll be my body, is that okay? It's nice, right? Yeah. We'll clone a body without a brain. We'll do a little bit of work and we'll upload your intelligence into that body. Seems simple, right? Right. Let's hop to it then. Take me back to the cloning machine. Yes. Yes. There you are. It's alive! It's alive! So I got a little bit carried away back there and I might have created a monster. I don't know if you noticed this, but at first the PD spoke very clearly and normally, but then in the last video it was only answering with one word, like it was regressing. And then after I put PD into that body, my body, he stumbled off and I lost him. I don't know what's going on now, and I'm sure it'll be fine. It's always fine, isn't it? Anyway, today I want to talk about reported speech a little bit and not worry about my problems. Reported speech is when we want to obviously report what somebody else said. Something simple like if I say, I like WAE 194, and then you could report it. He said that he liked WAE 194. Now we can use that or we don't need to use that. He said he liked WAE 194. Same as he said that he liked WAE 194. Pretty easy. Now the main thing to remember here is basically when we report speech formally, we generally move it back one tense into the past. And so what does that look like? Basically, if we start at present simple tense and I said something like, I like WAE 194, we could switch it into the past simple past tense, which would say, he said he liked WAE 194. Makes sense, doesn't it? Then from present continuous, we move it back into past continuous. I am living in Songdo. Andy said he was living in Songdo. Easy peasy so far. Past simple tense. I bought a bicycle. He said that he had bought a car. It goes from simple past to past perfect. Okay, past continuous. I was riding the train. We move that back to past perfect continuous. Andy said that he had been riding the train. Cool so far. Present perfect. I haven't seen PD. That's good. Professor Lasher said that he hadn't seen PD. We move it back to past perfect from present perfect. Then past perfect actually stays the same because we can't go any further back than that, right? So, I had taken Korean lessons before. It stays the same. Professor Lasher said that he had taken Korean lessons before. Easy with the verb tenses. Now if we add modal verbs, and I'm going to include will in the modal verbs even though it's future tense, but it kind of occupies a space between being modal and being future. And so, I will see you later. Professor Lasher said that he would see you later. Will becomes would. And would itself doesn't change. So I say, I would help you, but it stays the same. Professor Lasher said he would help, but blah, 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 blah. Okay, can, similar. Can becomes could. I can speak perfect English. I can speak almost perfect English, maybe. And then it becomes could. Professor Lasher said that he could speak almost perfect English. Could, again, following the same rules, doesn't change. I could ride a bike when I was 5 years old. Andy said that he could ride a bike when he was 5 years old. Easy. Shall, I mean, you never use shall, but for completeness sake, if we use shall becomes would. I shall come later. Andy said he would come later. Should doesn't change following the rules. I should call my wife. Andy said that he should call his wife. All right. Might doesn't change either. I might be a little late going home today. Got to search for PD. Professor Lasher said that he might be a little late today. Same, right? Okay, must doesn't change. I must study this weekend. Professor Lasher said he must study this weekend. How about have to? Have to and must have the same meaning, but have to actually changes back into past, right? I have to study this weekend. Andy said he had to study this weekend. Good. All right. That's the basic part, and it gets a lot more into detail, which I think I'm going to save for a second video, because I would like to talk about actual reporting verbs that we can use in academic papers. And the rest of this is a lot of like conversation-based, casual stuff, which is important for you, but not exactly important for this class. So let's save it for the next video, and that way this one doesn't get too long and confusing. Anyway, when we want to use reporting verbs, normally we just use said, right? Professor Lasher said blah, 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 or whatever. But if we write our paper that way, and of course we're using a lot of references, a lot of in-text citations, a lot of indirect quotes, right? And it's going to get boring if we say blah, 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 said, blah, 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 said. So instead, we want to break it down into 5 different categories of information that we are using. There's the statement, a description, a theory, an analysis, and an argument. I have about 10 verbs for each of these, so I'm just going to go through them very quickly because they all basically mean the same thing in each category. For example, in the statement we use say, right? Andy said that we use say. But in addition to say, we can use state, note, declare, observe, report, remark, point out, add, inform. Professor Lasher informed us that he had to study this weekend. Professor Lasher remarked that he was doing a wonderful job. I don't know. All right, moving on. But anyway, they all mean basically the same thing. We can use them interchangeably for statements. For a description, of course, we use describe. Professor Lasher described the problem as a big mess. The problem is a big mess. We can also use depict, recount, relate, define, illustrate, chronicle, demonstrate, characterize, portray. Professor Lasher portrayed the problem as a huge mess. This problem is a huge mess. He characterized it as a huge mess. It's reporting the speech. Okay, if we have a theory that we are introducing, we can use terms like believe. I believe a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? Suggest, hold, claim, presume, assume, regard, theorize, advance, postulate. Professor Lasher postulates that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Good. If we are providing analysis, we can say analyze, consider, estimate, scan, study, examine, scrutinize, evaluate, judge, review. Professor Lasher judged the problem as a huge mess. Makes sense, doesn't it? And last one, if we have an argument, we use argue. Professor Lasher argues that he is the best professor at SUNY Korea. No. The best professor at Incheon Global. No. The best professor in Song. No. We could go on forever, couldn't we? Let's just say best professor. Argue, contend, contest, disagree, challenge, dispute, disclaim, insist, debate, assert. Now some of these are a little bit different because it means we are going against the obvious one, right? If we contest something, if we disagree, if we challenge, if we dispute, or if we disclaim, it means we believe the opposite, right? Professor Lasher contests the idea that he is the worst professor. It means I disagree with that idea. Anyway, by using all of these different types of reporting verbs, we can make our writing much more interesting. So what I hope you get out of this video is using the correct verb tense in reporting, and also expanding the language that you use when we're reporting on other people's ideas, that we can have more interesting language in our papers. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm going to go look for PD, so everybody have a good idea, or have a good day, and if you see him, well, you might want to run. He seemed dangerous.